Therapeutic Farm. We're really happy to see you in our adaptive garden today. An adaptive garden is a garden that's designed so everybody can comfortably navigate around it. So it's got nice wide aisles, and the really cool thing about an adaptive garden is that it has big tall garden beds, so you don't have to lean down if you needed to sit. And whatever you need to do, you can reach the beds really easily. So today we are going to be talking about how a garden is a healthy home for a very wide variety of plants that live in it, and the things that we do to help keep it healthy. So we thought we'd show you around a little bit first. There are a couple of different things to see in the garden. The beds that are right in front of me are super tall. These beds are called trugs, and they're wooden and they're shaped like a triangle, an upside down triangle. And herbs that have really good smells that we use in lots of recipes tend to like these trugs a lot. And herbs are really cool because a lot of them you don't have to plant year after year. So if you are planting something at home, you could choose to plant some of these things that we'll show you today, and they'll come back all on their own year after year if they're feeling healthy. So this herb that I'm petting right now is actually a chive, and it's able to come back because the chive, like sour cream and chive potato chips, turns into a little flower on top, and the little flower are actually seeds. And so when those seeds come off, the seeds fall to the ground, and then it reseeds itself. And the same thing goes for the other things on down the line. And we can even see some little insects that are really appreciating these plants because they can help pollinate by touching on their pollen on some of the plants, and they like to eat some of the green leaves off of some of the plants. So we've got some cilantro, some chamomile that's really nice for tea. And down here, this is a pretty cool one. It's one of my favorites. It's a mint plant. As I touch it, you can smell mint like it's mint, spearmint bubblegum. And this particular mint plant is called a chocolate mint. And so if you took one of the leaves and tasted it, it's spicy, almost like toothpaste, but then it also has a chocolate flavor, and it grows like that naturally. Tanya, it's pretty cool stuff. But all of these plants in here are happy to live next to each other, so they're good neighbors with each other. And all these plants have nice, healthy soil underneath them, so they can grow and stand up nice and tall. And they also, just like us, they need food and water. Food for a plant would be good soil, and then water just like for us. If it's been kind of dry, we need to make sure that each of these beds of plants gets water in it. And the way you can tell if it's had enough water or not is you can look. This bed, I keep using that word. The word bed is not like you're going to sleep in it. It's the name of a space in a garden that holds plants. You can see this particular garden bed, the soil looks almost gray, and that means it's dry. But if I dig a little bit, you can see that it looks darker and it's a little wet underneath. It rained really nicely last night, so nature has already watered this garden bed a little bit. But if I dug down and it stayed gray, that would tell me that this particular garden bed would really benefit from some water. The other thing that, just like us, plants like their space, or maybe I should say some plants like their space. So these plants that are in this garden bed are strawberry plants, and they like a little bit of space. They don't want to be crowded with their neighbor. If they had arms, they'd put out their arms and say they want some personal space. And so these just got moved in here from another area that they weren't very happy in, and we put them with some space between them, so they've got plenty of room to grow. Now some things, just like people, don't need space at all. So they don't mind being in kind of tight and close together. Down here in this garden bed, we're growing things that our therapy rabbits here at Mainstay Therapeutic Farm might like to eat. And so this is lettuce. And in the middle are little baby carrots starting to grow. The lettuce doesn't mind being close together. If you look at it, it's nice and green and tall and strong, and it doesn't mind that it's a little close together. And if I wanted to feed some to the bunnies, I would take a leaf of the lettuce that's on the outside of the plant and pinch it together with my fingers and just break it off. And then one of our therapy bunnies might want to eat that. We'll save that for later. Let's see. Where to go next? Let's go over to something else that is delicious. I think people like to eat, but we might have to take a stop along the way to see some other cool things that volunteered to grow back on their own this year. Some cilantro. I took some of this home myself over the weekend and made some nice pico de gallo out of it. And then this, it looks almost like an alien landed. These are onions that grew back from last year, which is kind of uncommon. And just like the chives, it has seeds on the top. So if we let these dry up and fall off, it'll reseed the onions. And I pulled one up earlier. And it looks just like a little onion you would buy at the store. It smells really oniony too. So this could be used in a recipe just like a onion you'd buy at the store. But I wanted to come over and show you this contraption that has a real purpose to it. This metal trellis has little baby sugar snap peas growing on it. And sugar snap peas like to grow up tall, but they get kind of heavy as they grow. And so they need some extra support. They have a special need, and that is that their special need is to have some support. So as they grow, they have these little tiny tendrils that look like little, almost bendable sticks. And the tendrils will grow around the trellis as it grows, and then it's easy to harvest, which means get the food that you want off of the plant, the sugar snap peas, once the peas are grown. And I know that these are sugar snap peas, and this is something you could do at home because we have a painted rock that shows a picture of what it is and tells us what it is. It's a pea. So this is nothing special. It's just a nice rock we found and some paints that can handle getting water on them. And we put it here so as it grows we can see it. Let's see. We talked about some plants just like some people need their space, and some plants just like people don't mind tight space. We're going to go look at something that might need a little help. Here in this bed it looks like a jungle of lots and lots of green, and these are turnips. A turnip looks sort of like a fat white carrot, or like a white beet, if you know what those vegetables are. And if we look down inside, they're growing really on top of each other, which doesn't make any one plant be able to grow. And if they have limited resources, like how many people could live in one house? A lot, but not a whole. A whole town couldn't live in one house, so a whole town of turnips can't live in one space. And so in order to help the turnips that are going to stay do really well, we might pull up some and get them out of the way. And if you've ever seen a grown-up turnip, you can see the little baby turnip there has got the purple top and the white middle. And so if I was going to try to thin this out, I would want to be very careful to put my fingers down right at the ground where the turnip is in the ground and wiggle, 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 almost like a loose tooth until it comes up out of the ground. And I would want to thin those out so the turnips that are left to grow can get big and fat and healthy. And this again we could feed to an animal, or we could put it in a compost pile so it could decompose and become soil itself. So the other thing, all this stuff in the garden currently is already planted, except we do have something that just arrived at the farm today that needs to find a home. So we're going to go back over to where we started. this little flower find a home. We don't have to be super fancy about our tools that we have to plant things. We can use just a simple little garden tool, but if you don't have that, you could get permission and see if maybe there's an old broken kitchen utensil, a wooden spoon or something, that would work just as well. And I'm going to create a spot for this little flower. This is a bandana red lantana is what it's called. And I'm going to read it. There's a picture right on the label that tells me what it needs, and it's got a great big sunshine on the label, so that tells me it would like to be in sun. And I'm going to kind of look at the size of the pot and kind of decide with my hands about how big my hole needs to be. It needs to be plenty big for that plant to fit in. And I'm going to take a little spot right here where nothing else is growing and take my trowel, is what this garden tool is called, and loosen up the dirt a little bit and dig it out and set it aside. We're probably going to need some of that to go back in there. I also have gardening gloves on because it helps keep my fingers from getting quite so dirty. And then to get this plant out of this container, if you were planting something at home, and it would be the same whether it's a tomato or a flower, I don't want to just yank it out of the container because I might hurt its little base. So I'm going to give it a squeeze, almost like it's a squishy ball. So I'm squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. And then I'm going to catch the flower, the plant, as I set the container over, and just squeeze it out. So I'm protecting it, I'm cradling it in my hand. And if you look at the bottom of that, it looks almost like a bunch of thread, and those are all roots of this particular flower. This flower has been stuck in this pot for too long, and its roots, it's almost like if you had a long braid of hair and you wrapped it all around your head. The roots are doing the same thing. So we want to kind of help those roots feel like they're free to venture out into the world. Again, it's almost like if you had a big long braid of hair, you might take that down and use your fingers to help make your hair nice and loose and free so it can kind of flow around you. Same thing with these roots. So I'm trying to loosen them up, and then I'm going to take my little flower and I'm going to stick them in my hole. Oh, I dug my hole too deep. Ideally, my hole is going to be just deep enough so the top part of the plant will be at the same level as the top part of the bed. So it looks like I'm about there. And I'm going to take my hands, I'm being very gentle. Just like people, we appreciate being gentle with each other. We want to be gentle with our plant. And voila, there is our plant. Now, like I mentioned before, plants need a few things just like we do. They need a happy home, so this garden bed is their happy home. They need food, so in their plant's case, food is soil. And then they also need water. And we noticed how you could tell if it needed water or not by the color of the earth. So this ground is looking a little gray on top. And there's something about watering plants that will really help you keep being gentle. If you had a garden hose and you turned it on and the water came shooting out, that might be a little hard. Almost like if you were taking a shower with a really hard shower head and it was pelting you on the head and you're like, oh, the water's getting you. You really want a watering can that can water gently, almost like it's a little baby rainstorm. So I'm going to give it a little baby rain all around it, welcoming it into its new home. And while I'm here, I'm going to be resourceful and let all of its new neighbors have some water too. So this watering can, you could buy a watering can that's made for watering gardens. I think I got this at a local big store for like $4. But you could also use like an old milk jug and poke some holes in it and fill it up outside and let the water drain out of the holes. Like we said about these strawberry plants, they were just moved today from another place where they weren't very happy. And since they like having some space, I'm gonna make sure every little plant gets a good drink. Again, it's just like my own little personal rainstorm to help welcome these strawberries into their new bed. And that takes care of really meeting some of the plants that are in our adaptive garden home at Mainstay Therapeutic Farm and welcoming a new neighbor with the little red lantana. So I hope you enjoyed this and that it might inspire you to think about planting something of your own at home.